Shelly-Ann, and also Brian have questions too. Brian, you go first.
Well, quite compelling.
Quite tough audience. Quite compelling. I can't wait for your talk, Brian.
Well, I've been following your Daughters in Agriculture program. You didn't probably say much about it, but my question to you would be, how are you planning on demystifying the whole agriculture practice to these young daughters or to these young women? Because back where I come from, agriculture is very technical and expensive. And I like your story because you make it very simple. You know, how do we meet?
Okay, I think it's just sharing those role models, and that's the big part about Daughters in Agriculture, is showing how other women are doing this. And I know that there's examples in your environment, and we can share those. It's just social media that's really going to help, and I really think young women are using their tech. They're using their phones all the time. We're using Snapchat. We're using you know, the social media so much. So why not leverage on that and try and explain to them what's actually going on? Because I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there about farming so hard and farming is really boring. And yeah, we just need to maybe take some more videos, I guess.
Farming is so hard. Does anyone disagree with that? It is hard.
It's hard.
Shelly?
It is hard. And it's commitment, determination, and you have to be passionate about what you're doing. So it is hard. But once there is profit, you will work. You're not afraid of the hard work. Yes. Yeah, once there's profit, I think the hard work is okay.
I think it's hard, but doesn't need really to be. I think the future, maybe we're gonna mix technology and make it easier. But any good job is hard. And when you do what you like, it's not really that hard.
Katrina, when did you know you knew that you had to be a farmer?
It wasn't when I was a kid. I wanted to be a singer when I was a kid. So I just think someone could have told me that wasn't going to work out for me. I think it was coming home when I was 26, and I started really loving work for the first time. And when I was a kid, work was chasing after sheep, you know, moving mobs of sheep from one paddock to another. And then I went to an office environment, and I was just so out of touch with nature and with the landscape. And I think when you grow up on a farm, you really want that again, and it lives through you. And until you have that, you can't be yourself. So I think I encourage people to just give it a shot. So it was really when I first came home those first couple of years.
There are so many stereotypes that go along with farming and farmers, and a lot of farmers right now are older. They're not your age, they're much older, and they're aging out, and young people do not want to do it. One of those stereotypes is, well, farming is a man's job, right?
Yeah, once you say the word farmer,
you don't think of, I don't see you two, but I do now.
Yeah.
Brian, what are you going to say now?
Well, I was gonna ask Katrina a question, and so when we think about farming as young people, we think about the knowledge of growing different types of food crops. When you say that you are only 3 people on the farm, and it's such a large farm, that worries me as a young farmer. You know, how do you do that?
Yeah, there's a common misconception that broadacre agriculture requires a lot of people, and I think one thing you have to remember is that we live in a very dry environment, so there's not a lot of profit in it. So you have to make your business profitable, so we have to drive down the cost, and one of those big ones is labour. Well, I think people also think, oh, you must need to monitor all the time, you must need to be going out and seeing every single corner of your paddocks and 6,500 hectares of crop. You can't do that. But in talking about new technology and how it can be easier, we've got satellite technology taking photos of our farm, two photos of our farm for the last 15 to 3 years, and that hasn't even been released to farmers yet. that is so exciting. I think that's what the young people don't know is we've got all this like sort of in the sidelines just waiting to pop, and it's going to be massive. So I think we will be able to monitor our properties and our soil and our moisture, the nutrients and that sort of thing. It's going to become a lot easier.
Katrina farms in Australia, watching us today, part of our viewing parties. We have students from over 20 African countries at Bishop Stewart University and the Curry University's Regional Centre for Crop Improvement in Uganda. Hello, good to have you here. Thank you very much. #Future Harvest for questions. So we go from Australia to Uganda with Brian. Brian, I wonder if you could be quite compelling for us. Brian's headline is Grow Your Own Food. Brian.
Yeah. Thank you very much. That's my headline, Grow Your Own Food. And I've been trying to practice, I've been practicing this for almost a year now. And I don't come from a farming background, no. My background is business, innovations, and scaling. But when I was growing up, I actually didn't think that I would also do this kind of business mentorship and working with innovations. I grew up in a small town in Uganda, in the southwestern part, and the only interaction I had with farming was with my mother's chicken poultry farm. And on the sidelines, I had a small rabbit house with about 20 rabbits. Sometimes would eat them, sometimes I would sell some to my friends. Fast forward, I go to the university after my secondary school, and our resources at home in terms of funds for tuition and upkeep begin to drop. So I had to think otherwise. How can I support myself and the university? And at that point, my grandmother had her own poultry house, and an idea clicked. What if I could pick these eggs and sell them to my university classmates, And I did that for my university years, 3 years in a row, selling to my classmates and my lecturers. Yeah. It was not a bribe though, it was actual business. Yes. And unfortunately, or I don't know, God willing, the poultry actually died. We just made a little mistake, bought new birds and mixed them in the same pen house, and they died. And that's the risk with agriculture, So I finished university, I joined business, I do other things, I joined the innovation ecosystem, and 3 years ago I opened up a coffee shop with my wife. Still, the curiosity within me then was still, flaring, calling. Why is it that in Kampala, eating spaces, especially very fine dining eating spaces, are owned by old people, most of them foreigners, and we don't have any done by us. And yet we have all these graduates doing business, food, and all that stuff. So 3 years down the road, we're doing so well. We have 15 employees, but there is this one line in our Excel sheet that keeps taking lots of money, which is the fresh produce from the market. That's one. Two, the suppliers are not that reliable. Today he brings you green or white pepper that is this size, and the next day it's this size. And when you ask, he tells you, the weather is not we cannot control the weather, or the produce by the farmers, is not doing so well. So my mind again starts, questioning, what can I do, And that's how small gardens came into my mind. I'm not the first one to do urban farming in Kampala, no. But I think that I will be among the first ones to standardize urban farming in Kampala. And what do I mean? We all don't have resources. When I left home, I was not given like a piece of land to do all this stuff. No, I grow herbs for cooking and vegetables in my backyard at home, and some of the other herbs are growing within the coffee shop. And this has worked for us, since the beginning of this year. What is actually very interesting for us, we see most of our customers pick the leaves of rosemary, of chives, of mint, and put in their food, in their tea. All they ask for, can I have some water to wash this? I'm like, yeah, please. And the question is, why don't people then grow their own food? And that's our story. That's how we've started. So in the last 8 months, we've put up 100 gardens in a space that is less than 30 square meters, growing upwards, and growing over 10 different variables of products, so of food. We have leafy vegetables, we have some fruit, we have a good number of herbs because we use those a lot in the kitchen. I must say that we're still testing, especially with managing space and size. Yeah, that's it. So we're still testing, managing space, size, soil, and making sure that everything is organic. I could end by saying that there's so many urban farmers in Kampala because as much as we still have a big demand for food in Kampala, only 35% is contributed by urban farmers. The challenge they have is that they're still doing this in a very traditional way. So the output, is still very traditional, and it does not make business sense. So that's where I come from. How do we make this profitable, like SHELLY-ANN says?
Thanks, Brian. I'm just wondering if you'd been around when Brian was killing his chickens, if you could have saved him. What would you have told him?
If I was around when?
He was killing his chickens. He failed his,
All my chickens died.
His first time at being a farmer was not. It started well. It didn't end so well.
Yeah.
Did you say you did again? What did you
So we had chickens, and they really helped me finish my university, and I was really hurt that they died all in 4 days. We bought, because we wanted to expand, so we brought in new chickens, young ones, and I think they came with some disease, so even all the rest died.
All of them died?
In 4 days.
That sounds...
Brian, do you think that your ability to have that business idea when you were really young has what's driven you to be an entrepreneur?
Yes. I think for me it's that curiosity to learn and to do things. And many times it doesn't really matter what the field is. What matters is, can I understand it? If I gave my time to it and read and asked people and visited, the different places that they're doing all this stuff, would it work? And then I test.
Okay, so you have never studied agriculture?
No.
I hear a little sense of judgment. SHELLY-ANN, where would study fit in here? Where do you think that might have helped?
Well, if you had studied agriculture?
Yeah.
Well, the reason I asked is because I've never studied agriculture. So, but over a year, I've learned agriculture pretty fast. So I don't know if it's because I grew up on the farm, maybe it is natural, I don't know. So that is why I'm here to let people know that initially I wasn't interested in agriculture, and I never did anything as it relates to studying agriculture. But I was able to learn on the farm. So not because you don't study agriculture, or you don't have a farmer.
It's a different kind of studying, isn't it? It's studying as you grow up in the business.
Yes.
Learning by doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean the formal way of studying agriculture.
Have we lost that ability? Is that why farmers are older and older and older and not so young? Who's slightly older than the other young farmers, just a little bit.
Yeah, in my view, I didn't study agriculture too, but I became in love with agriculture. And learning by doing, I mean, I think it's sometimes much more efficient. Especially in Brazil, the agriculture courses is more like to how to understand really the packages that you have for the conventional agriculture and which poisons you're gonna put in the ground. This is what you really learn and study it. So you don't learn really much about nature, and I think that's what I became in love with nature and the way nature operates. And learning by doing it. I think that was much more efficient. But for that.
We're going to come back to that because you've got a great story. Brian, there's a question that came in online because you've been promoting this entire conversation. You've been really keen to join in. One of them came from a group of youngsters who said, land and farming can be expensive. How do young farmers overcome having limited resources and getting access to land? You don't have access to a lot of land. How do you overcome that?
So I think about the end and then walk backwards. What is that? I ask myself if I want to produce, let's say, 10 kilograms of green paper, how much land would I need or how much input would I need to produce that? And then I walk backwards to see maybe I need just 4 gardens, the right soil, the right seedling, and then this plant in so many months will give me this output. I also wanted to respond to what SHELLY-ANN said. One of the ways I learn very quickly and best is through making teams. Very small, usually my best teams are 3 people, and there's me, I would say I have the idea, and then there's someone else like you who is very skilled in let's say, soil, and how to manage soil, and then there's someone else who's very skilled in, let's say, growing and managing vegetables. And then together we do that first phase of testing. And that's one way that young people can be farmers. So irrespective of the background, just find someone who is very skilled and team up.
So presently you're supplying your cafe?
Yes, presently I supply my cafe. Actually 2 months ago, we stopped in a good way getting all the supply for fresh herbs from external suppliers. We now supply ourselves.
Okay, that's cool.
Is that applause I hear? Okay, so also watching, we have students from Cape Coast University in Ghana. Welcome, thank you for being part of this conversation. #Future Harvest. Anyone who's watching, either in the room, outside of the room, have a question, we're coming to you in just a moment. So, SHELLY-ANN is from Jamaica. Couldn't already tell. Her headline is Innovative Farming.
Hi everyone, my name is SHELLY-ANN, as Tommy said. I'm a 3rd generation poultry farmer for Jamaica brothers. I grew up on a farm, however I was not interested in becoming a farmer. I was like most of the youngsters who believe farming is not cool and farming is for old people. So my plan was to launch my own business and leave the farm as early as possible. However, when I was 20, my mom fell ill and had some financial difficulties and asked for my help with managing the farm. Within a year, I did very well, to my surprise, improving the production and managing the finances. It was clear to me then that I was good at farming, and it was clear to others in the industry that I was good at farming. That was when I decided to make farming my career. Shortly after I started managing the farm, a lady visited, and she said to me that I should get married as early as possible so that my husband could manage a farm. I did not say anything to her at the time, but smiled, because I knew what my intentions were and I knew what I was capable of. So last year, I saw that same lady. So I reminded her of what she had said to me. She then apologized to me, gave me a hug, and told me she's really proud of what I've done at the farm. In most developing countries like Jamaica, women are the backbone of the household, and farming is an avenue of revenue and empowerment. So that is the reason why I want to encourage youths and women to get involved in farming. In 2011, I constructed a 1-acre hydroponics shade house system producing tissueculture ginger. Ginger is a 9-month crop. And at my 5th month, Hurricane Sandy came and destroyed everything. I believe, though, in having good relationship with the bankers and good relationship within the sector. And it was because of those relationships I was able to rebuild and replant. In my 3rd year producing tissueculture ginger, I was also expanding on the poultry side of the farm, and I was also investing in solar systems to reduce production costs. It was during the same period my mom was diagnosed with colon cancer. So this was very difficult for me mentally, and something had to give. So I decided to put the shade house project on hold. Farming is hard work. We can become successful, but it is hard work, it is commitment, and it is passion and determination.
Yeah.
That's it.
So I'm thinking, what would make farming sexy again, other than you 4 very sexy farmers? And the P word came up very early on, profit, making money.
Yeah.
SHELLY-ANN, are you rich? You can take us out to lunch.
I'm not poor.
Oh.
Yes.
You're a farmer. Wow. This profit thing.
Yes.
Talk to me about profit.
Yeah, profit is important. Before you enter any business, it's important to see the feasibility, see how well it works as a profit. No one wants to work hard and cannot earn, or to be able to live a particular lifestyle. So I think our generation, if we are able to live a particular lifestyle, I don't think we'll shy away from hard work. We will work, but we want to be able to buy nice clothes, just like other professions. So yeah, I think farming can be profitable.
SHELLY-ANN, do you think that I have studied the women in farming for the last year, and I found that often it's necessary to teach women more business skills, to understand the bottom line, to understand that what the business of farming is. How did you upskill and learn about that sort of thing?
Well, I have my mom beside me, but I don't. To be very surprised, it is surprising to me, myself. I surprised myself because I did not know that I was capable of doing the things that I've done. So it was really surprising to me, really.
Can you give us a little insight? Because I want you to go online and put SHELLY-ANN's name online, and you will see her magnificent farm and these amazing coops with solar panels on the roof and a kajillion chicken. So give us some insight into what's the business bit that you do, because it's not easy.
Being that Jamaica is a developing, on the business side of it, Jamaica is a developing country, and for us to stay on the market, we have to compete with first world countries. So we have to use technologies that first world countries are using. Our dollar is 130 to 1. So we have to purchase turnkey houses from the US or other countries. These houses are very expensive, so that the initial cost is really high. The production cost is really high because our light bill it is super high. So that is why we have invested in solar to reduce our production cost. So the initial cost, everything about poultry production, the initial cost is really high because we are a developing country operating with first order technology. So everything about the industry is pretty much first order.
So I have a question. I imagine you have many employees, or your team is big.
No,
It's not? All right. So however small.
Wait. Tell us about your team.
It's 8 of us, and it's over 1 million birds for 1 year.
Nice.
So that's not a lot. It's fully automated.
Not a chicken.
Yeah, it is fully automated. The feeders, that's automated. The drink, where they get water, that's automated. The conditions in the house, that is regulated. We're the one that controls the condition. It is fully ventilated. Femi was saying that inside the house.
Here's my thing. A million chicken, how do you smell at the end of the day? Be honest. Honest truth. The world is listening. How do you smell at the end of the day?
It's fine, I don't smell
Fine. The smell of money.
I smell fine.
You smell fine.
Yes.
Because for a chicken farmer.
Yeah, the houses are fully ventilated. So if you should enter the house, it doesn't smell any different than here.
I'm not close enough. Pedro, how does SHELLY-ANN smell? Ryan, you did have a question somewhere there.
Yeah.
Continue.
How many young people do you work with on your farm? And the fact that most, especially you and KATRINA, have automated farms, don't they feel like they're still being left out?
The workers?
No, the young people.
Oh,
actually.
the young people. I don't, yes, some young people probably feel left out.
Do they walk up to you and say, how do you do this? Can we join you?
Yeah, I do get that. And since the YouTube video, I've gotten quite a few young people coming up to me and saying that they admire me or they think I'm an inspiration. But I think, I don't know if I should say this.
You should. Whatever it is, you should say it.
I think policy makers have to create an environment so that other young people can get involved, because I am a little bit privileged in the sense that my mother is there to use her collaterals for me to get loans, and my bankers, they are very supportive of me, because before I believe in myself, I think they have seen something in me before I believe in myself. And Jamaica Broilers, that's the company that I supply chicken, they're very supportive of me. So I do have a very good support system. So for other youngsters who don't have that support system, the government or policymakers have to create that environment for them to enter the industry.
Okay. So let me just say hello to the members of the Agriculture Co-op in Port Harcourt, Nigeria. Hello, Niger peeps. Thank you for watching. And we want to go to Brazil now. Pedro, intelligence of nature is your headline. Tell us why.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. Well, I came from a completely different environment. I used to be what I say, I used to joke on my other life. I used to be a racing driver.
Wow.
I competed in highest motor racing in Formula 1 for 5 years. Did that for 15 years of my life. And when I retired motor racing, went back to Brazil. And there is this farm from my family from 1970s. Actually, my family bought this farm from 1970s. And was there only really using by recreation, a little bit of agriculture, conventional agriculture there. It's a big farm. Now it's like 5.6 thousand acres farm. And 10 years ago, when I get involved to that and start to look to that, I already have interest in like sustainability and what it could do sustainable on that farm, and I start to look into that and understanding a little bit. I didn't study agriculture really, but really my family has a business background. My father is a really successful business guy, and started to look into the farm as really as a business, and what is really the opportunity and the opportunity to do something sustainable at that farm. And we came up to organic agriculture and started to study with that. We've been lucky to join a very good team of people to study that. And for me, was a journey that was amazing, because I didn't know anything about agriculture that actually allowed me to ask the stupid questions. And that has been an incredible journey, because I was looking how conventional agriculture was operating in trying to like sterilize everything, put chemicals, all the chemicals, and killing all the bugs and killing all the everything, and try to sterilize and try to control the environment. And that was creating a lot of problems. That's how the farm was operating before, trying to control and with a lot of very, very difficult problems to solve. And we're starting to look in the other way and seeing how really nature operates. And by studying organic agriculture, we starting to understand. We used to produce a lot of orange trees there. Used to have a lot of orange trees there, and to produce orange, we start to understand where the oranges normally in nature are produced. Where in the forest the orange trees stays, and we started studying that and became in contact with the concept of agroforestry. There is a concept of mixing what it's a forest, a real natural forest, and all the intelligence that is on the natural systems, and putting that into production systems. And on this journey, we've been modeling a lot and prototyping a lot in the farm, new systems of agroforestry, and especially prototyping and do financially models of that, because we really believe that it has to be a very good business to be sustainable, and also to become sexy. If it's not a very good business, it's not sexy at all. Bad business is not sexy. So we're having a lot of success of modeling it and expanding these agroforest systems. That's basically putting a lot of layers together to work together. It's basically how nature operates, and there is so much intelligence in that. And when you understand really how nature operates, and try to operate similar to that, and try to mimic that, you become in the flow of nature, and things are getting much easier and much more fluid, and works much better. At the beginning, it was very complicated, and until we understand how really nature operates, and trying to switch our mind instead of controlling it and trying to control everything and go with the flow. When we surrender to go with the flow, things are starting to get really well, and now things are getting really well there on the farm, and things are thriving there. So I became passionate to be a farmer, and I think farming has a great potential to be very sexy, but it has to be a very good business, and a business that create good food and actually regenerate our planet. I think it has a great potential to farming to regenerate our planet, regenerate life on our planet.
How are you defying the odds in a country that is so focused on commodities and export, and your, I guess, the policies around the government that are focused on that export production?
Yeah, that's a challenge in Brazil because 27% of our gross national product it's agriculture, it's commodity. It's a challenge, but we are studying that a lot, and even with big crops and commodity crops, we can do different ways, and by mixing, putting trees together with the grains, we can actually increase yield and increase the return on investment per area also. So, but this is the beginning, and it's a challenge to do that in scale. But to do that, you have to aggregate a lot of technology. You have to develop new machines that can manage these forests in a different way, much easier. So you don't need to have so much people on the farms because labor is very expensive, and also it's not so sexy to work in the sun like 12 hours a day. That's not sexy. I mean, you have to have machines to do that. Like in your farm, you have 1 million chickens and only 8 people working. I mean, that because you aggregate a lot of technology. Yeah. So I think it's a challenge to change the status quo of the big agribusiness, but I think it's necessary.
I have watched the video, and it's interesting to watch, even when it's not in English.
It's like a blockbuster movie.
Yeah.
It's stunning. It's like, I don't speak too much Portuguese, but I'm loving this.
Exactly. My question, from what you know your story, it seems like this would be a system for very large-scale operations, right? Or am I wrong?
Can be, but can be also for like a small family farm.
Exactly. So how does someone with a small farm, let's say 10 acres, plug into your innovation? How do they pick it and use it? And
let's leave that one, and then just see how Pedro answers it.
Yeah. It's, maybe I use this photo here because there is interesting thing here. I mean, this is the systems that we use there. This citrus like lime production. You see the limes here is in the middle. The photo is not so good. The limes is in the middle here. Bananas, and this is grass. Grass, as you know, it can be it's brachiaria grass, so it competes a lot with your main crop. And here, using the brachiaria grass that is very, very efficient, actually is not competing with our production, but actually creating organic material. So we raise this grass all the time here and put this in the line here, and this create food for the systems. So you use something that is in nature that is very, very efficient, like the grass. This is very, very efficient, and you use this to create food for the system. So that's a kind of understand nature and understand the potential of things in nature, and try to use this in favor of the system. Instead of normal agriculture, what you're going to do, you're going to put here herbicide, and you're going to kill this grass because it's competing with the rest of the system. Instead of, we are 100% organic there on the farm, so we cannot use herbicide, but we're using this that can be and is treated as a problem in the conventional agriculture in favor. Why is a problem? Because it's very efficient. It grows very fast. And we're using this in favor because it's growing very fast. It creates a lot of organic material. We're using this as in favor of the system. I don't know if it's the question, but to specific your question, this can be used in a large scale, but can be used in a small scale. with the small machines you can cut the grass and you can put that in the line.
Well, I'm going to come back to you, but we have some offices around the world who also want to chat to all of you, so I'm going to jump in a little bit. The Jomo Kenyatta University of Nairobi, youth leaders in Nairobi, the World Bank office are watching. I'm just thinking about young people, Pedro, because you are passing on your knowledge, your philosophy of farming in a formal, educational way. Tell us a little bit about that and how you might be helping changing the image of farming in Brazil.
Yeah, we have 60 families that lives in the farm, and we have a school in the farm. On this school, we use a system of teaching they call eco-literacy. It's basically for the young kids to understand how nature works and like simple things, like every kid has his own little garden and they planted there. And by putting the little seed of a carrot, then see the carrot grow, eat the carrot, put the rest on the compost and put the compost back in the soil and see this whole cycle, only this simple thing with these kids, I mean, this transforms their lives and start to understand what's really how nature operates. And I mean, in nature, there is no waste, everything is recycled, and there's so much intelligence in that. And I mean, we don't learn that in schools, and that's very important.
We're going to go to our video conference sessions now. Hello, Accra. Good evening, Accra. Nice to see you. What question do you have for our farmers? Going so well so far. Yes. And we have our person asking the question. I'm assuming he's going to a microphone. Aha! Yes. Very good. I hope it's worth the wait. Good evening, Accra. What is your question?
Yes, good afternoon. It is afternoon here in Accra.
Oh, yeah.
And then it should be good evening at your end.
It's morning.
Yes, my name is Carl.
It's good evening somewhere, though.
Okay.
But your question is what?
All right, sure.
Enough of the banter.
Yes, we've listened right from the beginning. And my question would go to SHELLY-ANN. Because she made mention of the fact that we need to engage young people or the youth in agriculture. And I want to ask if what the terrain is like in Jamaica with youth engagement in agric, and if she has done anything in that regard, as in trying to bring youth on board to at least learn from her experiences, or probably if she has mentored any of the young people there. Secondly, she also made mention of the fact that she was doing tissue culture ginger, and then she lost everything at a point in time. But then she had support from her financial outfit, which brought her back to her feet. I want her to share the experience with the Jamaican experience with financial institutions supporting agric enterprises. Thank you.
All right, so youth engagement with agriculture in Jamaica, what's it like?
It's not. Youth in Jamaica, just like around the world, are not interested in agriculture. Before, no, or a few months ago, I did not realize that young people were looking up to me, or I was an inspiration. I thought I was just working on my farm to produce. So I didn't see myself the way others saw me. So now that I'm here, I realize that people are looking up to me as an inspiration. So being here is the first step I've made to encourage youth, only because I did not realize what I was doing on a wider scale. So moving forward, I would like to engage myself more in events like these to inspire younger.
So you are youth engagement in agriculture in Jamaica. Wow, we're honored to have it here. KATRINA, you know that you're doing youth engagement.
That's part of the plan, I guess, for the Nuffield Scholarship to study this topic is to get these stories out into the media, because we're not seeing as young women where we can enter farming and where there's people doing like what SHELLY-ANN is doing. And if we can so do that, we can just crack open the code, I think. We just need to share this. It's inspire. I think that's, you said it right there. It's just being that role model and inspiring. And not me specifically, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be that person, but I hope to get all the women that I've interviewed and put them all up on the social media photos.
And you've been doing that. And
Yeah.
you know, women in tractors, children in ag, all over the place on
Pigs, there's been cattle, there's been like chickens, there's a lot of women doing
It's a
awesome
platform.
stuff, and
Using a
they're so passionate about what they're doing, and they are inspiring me, and I think that they do have the impact that I think they're going to have, so it's exciting.
But are you consciously thinking youth engagement, agriculture, I'm part of that movement?
Yes, I am very. When I go back to Kampala, my friends from the Open Sustainability Institute in Kampala, we have a 15-week program that we shall be implementing from November to February next year. And what we are teaching these people is pretty simple. Understand the sustainability principles, especially of the environment, that's one. Two, business modeling for agricultural activities. And then number three, grow your own food. So have a little farm in your background and just experience what it means to grow your own food. And with that, we have 10 people that have signed up. We keep it 10 so that we can minimize the failures and risks that we have to take. But yeah, we want to do that.
Toca Organicos is an Instagram site. It belongs to Pedro's farm. 56,000 followers. Is that part of how you're engaging youth in agriculture, Pedro?
Yeah, definitely. And like we feel that really young guys and millennials really want to know and more about agriculture, and I'm feeling that this new agriculture is getting more sexy, and young people really involved and interested in that. We do some courses in farm too, and I think that happens, helps why I have so much engagement on our social media. We do courses especially on these agroforest systems, that it can grow anything with these agroforest systems. That is kind of what I mentioned before, is just food forests that produce food, anything that you want. And people are really interested in that. I think people are really interested in different kind of agriculture. Yeah. This agriculture really that instead of destroying nature, regenerate natures.
Right. Let's say goodbye to Accra and hello to Kampala and then Nairobi. We have 5 minutes of video conference time left, so I'm going to get 2 back-to-back questions. Kampala, hello. Let's hope their microphone is on. Hello, Kampala. Hi, I do hear you. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Will Bank says hello back to you. What's your question, Kampala?
I can hear you loud and clear. We have a question from Samuel. Please.
Can speak it? Yeah, thank you so much. I want to once again join the rest of our members to thank the panelists for the discussion, especially sharing the experiences and the lessons learned. However, looking at the theme and also what we're discussing, I'm so interested in terms of looking at youth involved in agriculture. I'm happy that the panel, majority of the panelists, most of them are young people, they're sharing their experiences.
All of them are young people, apart from the moderator. Anyway, Kampala, we have 4 minutes left now. What's your question?
All right. Yeah, so I'm looking at some of the barriers that some of these young people are faced in terms of even establishing the choice of their business, because we know in Africa issues of land, access to credit, young people belonging to agro-business groups. So what are are some of the key barriers that they faced in terms of when they are opening their business, and what informed the choice of the business, the agro-business they chose to do? Those are my two questions. Then to the other person from Brazil.
Okay, Kampala, that was a fantastic set of questions. Thank you so much. We're going to just go back to Nairobi. Hello, Nairobi. Can you hear us? Because we have a video conference window. We have a set amount of time. Can we get Nairobi in? All right. If you can get Nairobi in, just put Nairobi up.
Nairobi's here.
Hello, Nairobi. All right, very
We only have
good.
like 2 minutes left.
All right, give me your
Feel a
question.
bit unfair treatment there.
Nairobi. Hello. All right.
Yes, here we go.
Fantastic.
So, just ask generally.
Yes.
We have a few questions. We have a lot of keen interest in this.
Yes.
So first question, quickly, how do you get available information and farm management without incurring costs? Secondly, Brian, what technology or innovation are you using for your urban farming? Thirdly, do any of you have experience working with middlemen and brokers in accessing the market? And fourthly, what advice can you give us in the transition from smallholder farming to largeholder farming?
These are
Thank you.
fantastic questions. Smallholder to large scale. Nairobi, I'm so glad that we got your picture up because these are fantastic questions. All right, we are now going to answer them all in speed dating style. Key barriers that you face. Who wants to go first on that one? Candid, direct, to the point.
Yeah, factors of production will always be expensive and very hard to source for a young person. How do you get over it? Number one, team up. Because if I don't have land, there is another youth that has a parent that has a large piece of land that is not being used. You know? Then, and
Any more key barriers from the panel? Just share this around a bit.
Technology for agroecology especially, there is not much research on it. We need more research. We need more development on technology. There is a lot of research on conventional agriculture, not much research on organic agroecology.
And your agriculture business of choice, this was interesting because you all told us your stories. Katrina, you didn't really have a choice. It was a family business.
That's right. Yeah. There's,
We didn't have a choice.
You didn't have a choice.
No, we
That's right.
didn't
You
have
didn't
a
have a choice.
choice.
Brian, you had a choice.
it's not fair that they didn't have a choice.
Yeah. How did you choose? How did you choose?
For
After
me,
you killed the chickens.
necessity. It was born out of a necessity. The gap, one, to supply our own things because it was getting unreliable.
How does a Formula One driver then choose to go into agroforestry in a sustainable, green, impressive way? How did you choose that?
Well, it's more like I was really a little bit dragged into it, but I think I was. I think I had that on myself. I didn't know that, but being involved with the farm again. I born in the 1970s, so I'm not that young. And my family bought the farm the same day that I born. So I spent my young age there in the farm. So I had a very close relationship with the farm. And coming back when I was 35 to the farm, I had a strong relationship with it, and I got completely in love with agriculture and understanding natural systems, really.
So many great questions from the Nairobi office. Farm management advice, information that you don't have to pay for. Does that exist?
farm management advice. Actually, there's a lot of platforms that we don't know, and that's what we don't do well is share that. There's for instance, I learned in Ontario, there's a really good platform for young farmers that they access all the time to figure out how much to charge for if they want to lease out a piece of equipment, if they want to sell some lambs. There's a lot of information on there. It's called a MAPRA, I believe. I could get that wrong. But we don't, and I think that's a government platform, so we probably don't share that, the best practices as well as what we should I think we can look on the internet, and the internet needs to get a little bit easier to navigate for young people to start out. I think that's going to.
I think definitely farming has to go to this new economy and sharing economy, and it's trying to really team up and in small scale, large scale, and then team up really. Teamwork is very
collaborate with farmers from around the world. I think those global platforms are what is going to drive the future revolution.
Strong belief that's really the key, and that's engagement. Now can engage a lot of people in this platform. And as you mentioned up in the panel, I mean, what do we have to do today?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm not sure if you want to answer this, but Nairobi wanted to know what tech you're using. Do you want to share that?
It's not very sophisticated, it's just understanding the practice. So I wouldn't say it's a technology, it's just understanding the practice of how to grow your own food in a very organic way. So probably if I can get more time with them online, I could share some.
Oh, that's very easily done.
Yeah,
you can do that. Thank you. Experience of middlemen. Who's experienced middlemen?
We deal with them all the time. Yep. The interesting part is that those things like blockchain technology, maybe those middlemen won't be around anymore. And I know, for instance, when I was in Kenya, I learned that there's small farmers all selling the milk to a guy on a motorbike that drives down to the bottom of the mountain, and then he gives it to a guy that buys the milk, then that guy sells the milk onwards. And it's just this chain of losing profit along the way. And so I think, yes, it's definitely challenging, particularly in the developing world, to deal with those middlemen. We sort of need to be innovative in our thought and collaborate to learn from experience, to learn from what other cooperatives are doing in order to solve that problem. So it is just sharing that knowledge. There's good things going around, good things going on around the world.
Just a second on that. The middlemen, before we lose them, they actually have a lot of information, and that's where I pick, secret sauce, but that's where I pick a lot of information from.
Is that your secret sauce, did you just say? You're whispering into your mind, that's my secret sauce, I'm not going to tell them that.
But yes, before you lose the middlemen, interact with them, learn from them. They know much more than you can imagine.
I'm not sure if Pedro's thinking the same thing, Pedro. You can disagree, it's fine.
No, I think new ways of commercialize it. It's important. It's new economy and try to make it much closer the production and the consumption. I think that makes a lot of sense. But we have to invest in a transition because, as you mentioned, for example, Brazil, I mean, it exports a lot of grains. That's the biggest part of our economy. That's not going to change from one day to another. But to do more locally grown food, I think that will make more sense for the future. But we have to invest in a transition. How we transition for what we've got right now to what will make more sense on the future.
I want you all to be thinking of one line about how you can make farming great again. I'm giving you 30 seconds warning. Because I'm going to say thank you to Accra, Kampala, Nairobi for being part of our video conference. We could actually have done an entire hour just on the video conference. So there's really good questions there. Thank you so much for that. This very small thing about advice from smallholders to scaling up. Who's done that? Who's tried that? Any specific advice for that? We can use the video conference now. Thank you so much. No. Okay, so that one we're going to share with our online audience, and hopefully they will be able to suggest a response. Making farming great again.
Gender neutral agriculture.
Didn't miss a beat. Brian.
Yeah.
Making it an affordable practice.
SHELLY-ANN? Do not be afraid of being different.
Yeah.
I think, well, I already said it, but instead of fighting with nature, but try to go with the flow with nature and profit from everything that nature gives to us. And when you go on the flow, that will make farm brilliant.
Thank you for being with us online, in the room. The title of this session was Future Harvest, Who Will Grow Tomorrow's Food? Who will grow tomorrow's food? Pedro, SHELLY-ANN, Brian and KATRINA, thank you so much.